Still Life, the band before it became 10,000 Maniacs, and did that differ much in sound from what the band eventually became?
Still Life started in January of 1981. A group of my friend Dennis Drew and I formed a band with Robert Buck, our guitar player, our guitar player, with Robert's wife and another friend of ours, and Dennis Drew and I were running the college radio station here in Jamestown, New York, when a young woman student showed up at the radio station wanting us to play some songs that she liked, some records that she had, and she started working at the station, and we, being a disc jockey and doing our letterhead, because she was quite talented in drawing and stuff. So we invited her down to one of our rehearsals one day, and that was Natalie Merchant. And we had our first concert in February of 1981, and which we were thrown out for being so god awful. And I suppose, you have to say that the roots of 10,000 Maniac Sounds is in there, but we were pretty horrible. And in fact, I was just listening to a tape that Dennis had found in his attic, and it very well could have been the very first concert that we played or one of our early rehearsals as Still Life. We're actually on the tape. Dennis walks up to the microphone and says, okay, announces to whoever was there, I don't know how many people were even there, not many, but that we finally had a name for the band, and it was in fact Still Life. And it's pretty funny to listen to the rawness to our sound. For me, I'd never played the bass before. I'd probably at that point played the bass guitar for maybe 2 weeks. And we were very raw and very excited. We played a lot of covers. For instance, I sang The Cure's "Boys Don't Cry." Dennis Drew sang "Guns on the Roof" by The Clash. In those days, even Robert Buck sang. You hear Natalie Merchant really actually sing probably one of her first songs live. It was a song that we wrote called "There Is No Sober Reasoning." Actually, she wrote the lyrics for it, but you might be able to think it sounds like the same band, but we had a different drummer who really couldn't play, and our sound really solidified, I think, when Jerome joined the band, 2 years later.
What would be some of the mutual musical influences that you probably all shared around that time?
I think reggae was probably one of the biggest ones.
Mm-hmm.
I had first really heard reggae music as popular reggae music is. Like in 1976, I saw a concert on TV on the Dime Kirshner's rock concert. You ever seen that?
No, we didn't get it down here, but certainly heard of it.
Yeah, they had this guy that I thought had ropes tied to his head, and it was Bob Marley, and he was singing "Running Away" from his, I believe it's from the Kaya record, and I was completely mesmerized by it. And I ran out the next day and bought the only Bob Marley record I could find in town, and that was Rastaman Vibration. And I was hooked. And there was a Dennis Drew and I had been friends since 1973 when we met in high school. So we had shared both being the same age and everything. We'd shared a common interest in acts like Bob Dylan and Neil Young when we were when we were younger. But John Lombardo really kind of brought to us the English English folk band influence to us when he joined the band in. Sorry, my daughter's talking to me. When he joined the band in '83.
Yeah.
And he turned us on to stuff, to Fairport Convention and Lindisfarne and stuff like that we all really, really became big fans of. And I think that was certainly one of an influence on 10,000 Maniacs and how we wrote music and stuff. Not that we can play like any of those guys, but you know, they definitely influenced us.
Is there a definitive story about how the band got its name? It must be one of the most unusual band names of all time, and I'm sure you've been asked the question a million times.
Well, you know, I've been asked it a million times, and I never seem to get it right, because it's not. Most people just think it's sort of a silly thing, and in a sense it is. But we put a lot of thought into it. When we started playing in 1981 around Jamestown, and of course in the years leading up to that, most of the bands that you could see here in my town were cover bands. Obviously, not many of them were trying to write new songs. When Dennis and I started working at the radio station at the college, we joined this music club from New York City called Rock Pool, and we were one of the first college radio stations to sort of join it. We got in this little underground movement of record sharing, and this guy would go to England and just collect English bands and Europe bands, and these are still albums, of course, you know, vinyl, and bring them back. And that's where I first heard the Gang of Four, and I thought they were unbelievable. I'd never heard anything like that. It just really turned what I thought, you know, what pop music was in another direction, and I was completely thrilled by that. So most of the bands that were in town were playing sort of heavy metal music and stuff, and all the guys had all like really long hair, and they wore kind of, I don't know. Taste is really hard to define, but it wasn't something that I liked to do, and we didn't like any of those people that went to see those shows to come to our shows. So we wanted to pick a name that would scare people away, and it did. No one came. But the actual name is a misnomer. We thought it was there was a movie by Herschel Gordon Lewis called 10,000 Maniacs, and it's actually called 2,000 Maniacs, that I believe was filmed in the 60s. That was a very bad horror movie, and a friend of ours actually suggested it to us, and we thought it looked good in print. You know, I mean, people would recognize it, you know, when their eyes are just scanning a page.
Yep, sure.
You know, because of the number, and and it also we kind of thought that it might give. And we did put this much thought into it. We thought that it might be always give journalists something to write about. You know.
Well, it did.
And we appreciated, although our music was raw, and certainly some people may have been offended by it early because we were lousy. You know, or I was. I'm not saying we all were, but as a band, you know, we started fresh, and we were learning together as we grew as musicians. And I think that's one of the unique aspects of us being, from the same town and all that kind of stuff. But we like the irony of the name with the sort of jangly guitar sound, and that in fact it wasn't very maniacal and stuff like that.
Now, you first began attracting attention around Europe, and that's always remained a strong market for you. What can you put that down to? Anything in particular? Well,
in fact, it isn't a very strong market for us. We don't sell many records in Europe, and we in fact haven't been back to Europe since except for the Fla Festival we played, and the Mean Fiddler a couple years ago. We haven't been back since I think '89.
Oh wow!
Yeah, Dennis and I were just talking about this. I asked him about it the other night because he has a little better memory than I do of some of the dates. He's good with dates. And we played a club date, I think, in the early '90s at this bad club, this little tiny club that we didn't really try to promote well. So I really didn't consider it much of a gig. I don't know why we did it, but playing in England and actually sending our first independent record that we made at one of the universities up the road from us at the Tonmeister program. We sent to John Peel, and it had the song "My Mother the War" on it, and this was probably in '83. We did this. We sent it to him, I believe, and he wrote back. He sent us a card back that said he loved it, and that at the end of the year, it was on his listeners' poll, top 50 favorite tracks. And we, right at that same time, we had met the person who was to become our manager, Peter Leak, who was an Englishman living in New York City. And he said, I can get you gigs in London, and we went and played at the Fridge in Brixton and Dingwalls and Camden Town, and down in Piccadilly at the Marquee Club. And Howard Thompson, and then we came back. So we had some press from NME and New Music, or a couple of the other music rags, and we brought those back with us, and sort of the buzz started happening, and we booked we got a gig in New York at Danceteria or someplace, and Howard Thompson, who was then at CBS, saw us play, and he was moving to Elektra Records, like that year, and he signed us to Elektra.
Used a variety of producers over the years too. Was that just a result of circumstances, or did you actually seek to work with a range of producers?
Well, we picked our first producer in Joe Boyd because of his work with Fairport Convention and bands like that. That we kind of wanted that. We thought it would be great. He was an American living in London. We talked the record company into letting us go to London to make it. So we lived on Muswell Hill we called ourselves the Muswell Hillbillies. We lived in Muswell Hill for 3-4 months in the spring of '84, or in the spring of '85, and it was a blast. We had a riot, and when the record didn't do too good, Elektra picked the next producer. They said, "Forget it. This is our pick," and they wanted the man with a golden touch, so they picked Peter Asher. And sure enough, our record went gold and eventually went platinum. And then we worked with Peter again on the next record, and then when we released, which was it was The Wishing Chair with Joe, or The Wishing Chair with Joe Boyd, In My Tribe with Peter Asher, Blind Man Zoo with Peter Asher, and then we released our 2 independent records in between that and Our Time in Eden, which we worked with Paul Fox. It's good to work with different people, I think. If you find someone you really click with, it's certainly worth trying again.
Yeah, sure.
I'd work with any of those guys again. We all had really good time recording songs, and and that process doesn't really change. I know when you recording is still recording. It's really all. The idea is the same, and writing songs is kind of the same. But if you can get if you get another personality in that you all like and trust, it can really make for a wonderful experience, and hopefully a better record.
Now, you toured quite heavily during the 80s, and I read there where there was probably some burnout from excessive touring. Are you more selective these days as to the quantity of gigs?
Yeah, we still work pretty hard. We were sorry?
Sorry, no, that's fine.
Oh, we were obviously still trying to get ourselves, trying to sell records, and reach a certain level, and we probably worked a little too hard because Natalie got really sick, and she's a strict vegetarian, or she was then a very strict vegetarian, and it was difficult for her living like we were on the amount of money we were getting paid. It was difficult for her to stay healthy. So we did burn ourselves out, but we took off. We took almost the entire year of 1990 off. We re-released our independent records, and it sort of gave Natalie enough energy to come back and do another record with us,
Was the writing on the wall there for a while that she was considering leaving the band, or was it a sudden thing?
Well, John, at the first rehearsal, still life. She called us names and walked out saying she was never coming back, but she kept coming back. And I think her words were, and these were, this was when we were writing the songs for Our Time in Eden. This might have been 1991. It was after we released that old the Two Independents. We really wanted to get that out there and let people hear that, because we didn't sell many of them when they were first released. She wanted to do a closure. It was we had just gone past our 10 years together, and it really felt like it was time to sort of end the decade with something. And while we were rehearsing one day, she said, writing songs for Our Time in Eden one day, she said, I just want you guys to know that this is going to be my last studio album with you. And, there wasn't an argument. There wasn't much discussion about it. I mean, we weren't going to keep her against her will. She wanted to go, and that was fine with us. And we were very happy for her. We liked the situation it put us in, so... The tour, in fact, making Our Time in Eden, the record was actually was almost the most fun we've had making a record. I thought there are obviously we've had moments of struggle in the studio, and we argue about things because everyone's so passionate about what we're doing. But the working with Paul Fox and Our Time in Eden was a real joy. We had a lot of fun, laughed a lot. And the tour was fun too. My wife was pregnant, and she was out on tour with us. And, we had three men in the horn section, and we had 2 side musicians. It was a big, huge touring family, and we had a really good time.
Now,
go ahead.
Mary Ramsey is coming in to filled in Natalie's shoes. Can you, just for the benefit of our listeners here, can you just fill us in on Mary's background?
Mary is from upstate New York, where the rest of us are from. She started playing viola at the age of I think 5. She started in violin actually, and then switched to viola when she was a bit older. And she's classically trained in both viola and I think vocal. And she. When John Lombardo quit 10,000 Maniacs in 1985, give or take a year, and he moved from Jamestown up to Buffalo, New York, which is sort of the closest metropolitan area. And he met Mary. He saw Mary playing a string quartet and introduced himself, and they began talking, and they started writing songs together, and they formed a duo, John and Mary, and they released 2 records on Rykodisc, which are available at our website, and because they're kind of a collector's item now, but they still have some copies we're trying to get rid of. And John, in 1990, John and Natalie remixed our independent records. We asked John to come in and help out on that project, and he was fine with that. And we did a little tour to support of that, and John and Mary were the opening band. And John came out and sang some of the older songs with us too, and Mary played viola with us. And when we recorded Our Time in Eden, she was in the studio playing viola. And when we did our Unplugged record, she played viola and sang on a number of songs, and she toured with us in '93 on our last on the Natalie's big band tour. And so it was a real natural, as far as we were concerned, for Mary to step right in.
Yeah, well, it sounds like it certainly created a very smooth transition.
Yeah, it was. It was very difficult on her. She had there was a lot of pressure from her going from playing little small clubs with 100 people in them, and just John Lombardo, or even less than 100 people sometimes, to playing for us. Where not that there were a lot of people, but she had no attention before. She wasn't doing many interviews before. People weren't asking her what it's like to fill Natalie's shoes.
Yeah.
And she came up with a great answer finally. She said, "We got the same shoe size. It was easy."
I guess you also would have had to deal with the inevitable comparisons when she came to the band. Did that become
It was a lot of pressure on her.
Yeah.
It wasn't so much for us, but it was really a lot of pressure from her. And we tried to kind of shield her from it, but she didn't want to. She didn't want to shy away from it as far as the media went. And then she finally got sick of it. But then she just started saying, "Call Natalie and ask her." But it's going to happen. I think she was a bit caught off guard by it, but she's much. It'll be gone by the next record. Pretty much.
For sure. Yeah.
There are still people out there in America, all over the world, who might know who 10,000 Maniacs are, and may think that Natalie's still in it.
Yeah. Yep.
They don't even know that Natalie quit. And there are people that think, when Natalie quit, we broke up, and that was it.
And wouldn't be aware that you're still going. Yeah.
And not just the fact that people think Natalie was the band, because we know who the band was, and she was happy with letting us keep the name, and that wasn't a problem with her. And you could debate that too, whether we should have changed it or not. But we really feel like we were 10,000 Maniacs.
Yeah. And
so it never really crossed our mind to even think about changing her name.
What qualities?
Anyways, the Rolling Stones was taken, so we couldn't do that.
To not.
What qualities would you say the band has now that perhaps it didn't have in the say mid to late 80s?
Our waist sizes are a little bigger. Hairline's a little smaller. I think we have a little more. There's a little more humor back with John joining the band, and not that Natalie doesn't have a sense of humor, but she just. I don't think she got some of the stuff that the boys were laughing at over the years. I don't think Mary gets it either. We are boys after all.
Yeah.
Mary's viola, of course, is a wonderful new dimension, and her ability to play lead, and it's just the viola is just such a beautiful sounding instrument, and she's so good at playing. And you can definitely see people's sort of just body language and emotions change in a kind of live setting when we're playing. And she gets the viola out and starts playing, and we'll let her start a song, and just by herself, and people start sort of swaying, and you can almost see their bodies melting, and then we come in and ruin it all. Shut up.
Would you say the band's on stage persona has probably changed a little bit too?
Yeah, it's all just minute changes. It's like watching your children grow.
Yeah.
For me, it's hard to say because I'm with them almost every day. Unless, of course, I'm away on tour. But I see them a lot all day when I'm home, and it's. I remember one time putting my daughter to bed. I don't know, a month ago or a couple months ago, and she said, and she didn't say anything. I just looked at her and gave her a kiss, and in the morning when I got her up, she changed. Her face was different. It was, in 12 hours. So, the band's like that too. It's really, it's just minute changes, and it's really just a matter of us just trying to get better. Yeah. Trying to write better songs, trying to play better licks, trying to, do better concerts. It hasn't been really changes that we've mapped out or that we've tried to do, really. We certainly will experiment with some other styles, but the way we sound, the way we play, the way we approach our instruments has always sort of been the same, except for that getting better. Sure, honey. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, certainly does. How did the deal with Geffen come about?
Geffen, our manager, Peter Leak, had the Cowboy Junkies who are also on Geffen Records. And they're, the gentleman who signed them, Jim Powers, was a friend of Peter's. And he brought Jim Powers to see us perform at in Chicago in whatever year that was, 3-4 years ago, and 94, and he loved it, and he said, "I'm going to sign you guys to Geffen," and he did. You know, they dangled a big carrot in front of us, and we took it, and then. You know, our record didn't sell as it sold a little less than what we expected, and I think a lot less than what they expected. And '97 was a horrible year for them. They didn't sell many records anyways. And then they started going through transitions. People were changing jobs. People were quitting. People were being fired. And you know, they completely, in our opinion, quit on our record. On our second single. They worked really hard. They were all really nice people that we met, and we enjoyed our time there, but then it was just kind of like, well, we better just, you know, they had to start cutting losses, and we were one of them for them, and we said, fine. So we're looking at, we're sort of negotiating with other companies now, and we're really excited about, we're going to do with an independent label, I think, unless, of course, someone comes along with a big carrot again.
So there are new songs in the works?
Yeah. Rob Buck and Jerry Augustiniak, our guitar player and drummer, have been working in a side project down in Dallas, Texas, in a band called League of Blind Women. And they're just sort of finishing up some stuff down there. And in the meantime, we've been doing some weekend gigs, you know, just sort of playing in the northeast of the United States, anything within 10-hour drive. You know, we go do, you know, so that's like Chicago is a 10-hour drive from here, and that's where we were just there again this weekend. Mm-hmm. And playing colleges and stuff. So new songs have been sort of brewing in individuals, and we've been tying up some of the songs that we put on the back burner when we recorded Love Among the Ruins. We've gone back to complete those. You know, once we started out with 30 songs, and we thought we all really liked the most, and then recorded those for the record, and then the other 15 we've been sort of weeding through it, making sure we've got seeing what it is, you know, fixing some parts, trying taking them in a different direction, see how they work, and then that might be something we may release on our webpage or something before, you know, in the meantime while we're recording a new record.
So will you wait for a deal before you record, or you go ahead into the studio beforehand, do you think?
Well, I think we're going to, I think we're just going to get started and not really worry about it. I think ultimately we'd love to have the record done and then deliver it.
Yeah.
And then do the deal. Because we'd really want to just keep record companies out of it as much as possible, because we haven't done that very much, except for like in the early years. And when they're giving you you know, a load of money and you take it, you know, there's strings come along with it, you know, and you can and we didn't fight with them too much, you know. We did a little bit, and we had made a few pissed a few people off, but you know, we just wanted, you know, we wanted the record companies to like what they were working for, and that was our record, and we wanted them to really work hard for it, and I think that's one of the things that worked for us throughout the years. But it really ends up costing a lot of money because they want to remix it, and we say, okay, go ahead, remix it. You know, what the hell? What are we going to do? And they remix it, and they're like, oh God, we don't like that. And we're like, well, you know, remix it again then. And so they do, and they spend more money. And we're just gonna, we just want to try this record without getting into any of that. We just want to write the songs, record them, and put them away, and not trying to, you know, make every song a single, you know. And we're very, very excited about that. So we're going to do it at an inexpensive studio up the road from us, so we don't have to travel anywhere. Everyone at night, everyone goes home. You know, I come home to the kids and give them a kiss before I go to bed. You know,
and turn up for work the next day.
Yeah, you know, I've never done that. I mean, all my jobs I had before 10,000 Maniacs were, you know, minimum or below minimum wage, you know, selling cigarettes and stuff at the drugstore. And since then, I've never really had a job. It's like I can't retire because I don't really. That's what my father-in-law says. You can't retire. You don't have a job. But it is a job, and it's a job that I love.
Yeah, well, terrific.
I don't, you know, I love working. I don't have any problem with it. I did back when I was when I was in my 20s, but now that I'm 41, you know, I enjoy it.
Okay, Stephen. Well, I was going to ask you about your upcoming plans, but I guess you've just covered that with the recording, and hopefully you're shopping a deal around as well.
Yeah. Well, we want to get down to your neck of the woods. We've never been there.
I'm just going to say, I don't think we've had the pleasure, have we?
No, and I think it'd be a good time.
Oh, for sure.
I think Australia would love us.
Oh, we've got a very healthy live music scene down here, so there's more than enough room for you. We'd love to see you here.
And I hear it's just such a wonderful place. You know, I just want to go. So we've just been to Brazil, and we've been 2 summers in a row, and we're doing pretty good down there. We're going to release some other material just down exclusively for that, a live recording possibly, and we're going to try to get back there. He wants us to come back again in April, just after the carnival. But he also wants. He said he'll take us over to Japan and Australia and that. So we don't know if something's going to happen. I mean, we've got to be invited. We just can't really.
Yeah.
You know, we can't say we want to play in Australia and you know, have it magically happen.
True.
A promoter has to take the risk and say, yeah, you know, I'll do all right. Or at least let's get it started. Put us in a couple of cool clubs or something.
Yeah. Oh, well, let's hope that happens. There'll certainly be an audience here for you, that's for sure.
Well, then we're going to have to do it, because I'd like to bring my kids over there, too.
Okay, Stephen, well, it sounds like you got a bit of a handful there on your hands at the moment anyway, speaking of kids, so I'll let you get back to that.
You got enough on the interview?
Oh, I've got plenty here, yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah,
thanks for that, indeed. And thanks for all that wonderful music.
I probably talked a little too much.
No, you did fine.
Well, let me know, you know, when you, I don't know, send me a copy of the show. What is it actually going to, is it a part of a longer show, or...
part of a band history, yeah, I'm putting together, and you know, I'll intersperse parts of the interview with it, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, do you, I mean, I could send you, you know, you can get our, yes, honey, I'll be right there. you can get our more recent bio off the internet.
Yep.
At you know, on our webpage. Oh, honey, don't write on yourself like that, baby. That's why you were hollering at me. You silly girl. You can get a lot of that information from the webpage, but there's other information I can get to you. There's a wonderful book, tour booklet that we had produced, that we sold with us when we did the 1990 thing, when we toured to support our first 2 independent records. That has a wonderful story of how we started. That is good for good for information. If you'd like one, I'd have to. I couldn't email it to you, and I don't have it in that format, but I could send you one.
Oh, that'd be
great. When's the show going to be out? When's this going to be done?
I don't have a set date yet. Be in the upcoming months anyway, in the next 2 or 3 months.
Hey, Greta, don't do that, baby. Not with that Sharpie. That'll just stay on you. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I've got one the same age.
Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's using herself as a palette, and she's painting on herself with markers that won't come off, I'm afraid. And I'm going to get in trouble for it. Okay. Hey, stay in touch, John.
I will do.
Certainly when, if you can ever send me a copy of it, I'd love to hear how.
Oh, we'll most certainly do that. Yep.
And you know how to reach me on the internet, so
we'll stay in touch that way, for sure.
I try to answer all my mail, within a couple of days when I'm around.
No worries. Well,
very good.
Thanks again, Stephen.
For the call.
All the best.
I enjoyed it.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.